Hello and welcome to the Car Care Nut channel. In today's video, I want to share with you the best and worst Toyota models in 2023. The information in this video comes from first my long career with Toyota. I used to work at a Toyota dealership, and then I opened my own shop. And actually, around the time filming this video, it is the 1-year anniversary of this shop, specializing in Toyota and Lexus. These are the cars that I see the least in the shop, and when they do come in, they only come in for maintenance. They're truly like the top of the top, the hidden gems, the best ones. Majority of Toyota models are reliable. However, there are some that really exceed that by a lot, and there are some that don't live up to that name. Small disclaimer before we start the video, folks. If your car is not on this list, that doesn't mean you don't have a good car. It just means it's not the top. We're talking about Toyotas and Lexus. Most of them are good cars. Most of them are reliable. They're built to be that. They're not built to be exciting and fun and all that. They're made to be reliable. So if your car is not on this list, it doesn't mean it's a bad car. And the second thing is, if your car is in the worst car list, that doesn't mean you should get rid of it, or you're going to write a very angry comment that, you know, I own this car, it's been great. I am really happy. If your car is in the worst list and it has been good to you, I'm really happy for that, because there are some things. This video is aimed for you if you're buying a car today. With that in mind, let's start the first category. Let's start with the sedan category, and really the top of the sedans here is the 2013 to 2018 Toyota Avalon V6. So the Avalon has actually a brother or sister car in the Lexus world, the Lexus ES, and specifically the ES 350 from 2013 all the way to 2018. I mean, those are so good cars, folks. They come in, I rarely have any issues with them. They're always just maintenance, brakes, you know, fluids, whatnot, but nothing really else. And they're so low maintenance. They don't have power steering that loves to leak like the previous generations. They're the best. One thing I will say about this one though, the hybrid variant of these, while it is really good, there has been some issues with oil consumptions, EGR problems, whatnot. So they're not in the list of the top. They're still very good, but not the top. Then the next one on the list is a Toyota Corolla, specifically the 2016 to 2018 Toyota Corolla. Now, some of you will say, wait, what about the 2014 to 2015? Those are really good as well. However, there has been some isolated issues. 14 was the first year of that generation. 15 carried some of those issues, but 16 to 18, they are really good. And some folks have voiced concern over the CVT. I have yet to see a CVT problem in those 3 years. Folks, this Corolla is really good, but the truth have to be said, they're a little bit on the cheap feeling. You get inside them, after all, they're economy cars, they're loud. That's the concern about them, but that should not be mistaken for quality of the stuff that matters. If you are looking for a good commuter car that goes decent gas mileage and very good reliability-wise, that is definitely a top pick. And then the next one is 2016 to 2022 Toyota Prius. I mean, in the past, and we're going to talk a little bit about the Prius later on, but in the past, Priuses, as they get older and as they're used, people are always afraid of them. But I will definitely recommend you look into a 16 to 22 Toyota Prius. I mean, even the first year when they first came out, they had very little issues. Usually the first year of production of any car, they're going to have issues, they're going to fix them under warranty, and then the next year and the next year, things get better. But the Prius in that generation, the fourth generation, they were really good. Look, they look odd. They're an eco car. After all, it's not a fun car or anything. Gets really good gas mileage. They look odd. Some people see them as good. Some people see them as odd looking, and I understand. But it is nonetheless a very good car to own if you're looking for good transportation that is reliable, that gets excellent gas mileage. And on the Lexus side, the 2013 to 2020 Lexus GS 350, and specifically the 350, and equally the 2014 till now IS 350, and then the RC 350 from 2014 all the way to now. Folks, these three cars are often overlooked. Oh, these are just boring cars, they're too expensive. They are so good. And actually, in my opinion, they're actually fun cars to drive. They're not the most exciting in the world, but they are more fun than your average Toyota and Lexus. And the best part about them is they're so well made. I mean, they are built in Japan. in one specific factory that is really good. And these are the kind of cars that make you wonder, are they ever going to break down? They are really good. But one thing have to be said about them. Don't buy a neglected one, because they are, after all, luxury cars, and things can get expensive if they're really neglected. That's the only note about them. And the second thing is, you're going to go through a lot of tires with these three models. That's just how they are. The tires are not very cheap for them, because some of them are low-profile tires, and brakes are a little bit more expensive than usual. But otherwise, they are truly a hidden gem, in my opinion. Let's talk about some honorable mentions here, because this car used to be on my top list, but slowly it is coming off of it. And let me tell you why. 2015 to 2017 Toyota Camry. Folks, this model is really good. However, extended oil change intervals and lack of maintenance, and this is something I see all the time here. Oil consumption with the four-cylinder is becoming a problem slowly. Not all of them. Some of you will comment down below that you have extreme miles on these and they don't burn a drop of oil. That's because you took care of them. But unfortunately, if you're going to buy one today, you got to be really careful. Buy one that has been really well maintained. That's the only reason it dropped from the top list to the honorable mention, because they are really a good car, especially the V6. The V6, really, you're playing it safe, no oil consumption there, even with bad maintenance. With that model, be careful with the oil consumption for the four-cylinder. Let's talk about the SUVs. And probably the star of this show will surprise some people. 2016 to 2018 Toyota RAV4. Look, many things can be said about that generation RAV4. It feels very cheap on the inside, it's very uninspiring, very featureless, and they're very loud to drive. And yes, some of those are potentially true. But that car is not made to be a fun car. It is meant to be a very reliable transportation car. And for that matter, those specific years, hybrid or non-hybrid, are really good. I mean, I rarely see them. I see a 15 and a 16. 16 needs maintenance, 15 needs other stuff. But don't get me wrong, the 13 and 15, they're not horrible cars. Don't take that as the note here. However, here are some issues that you know why I went 16, 18. Oil consumption is an issue with 13, 14s, and then the torque converter shutter, 13, 14, 15. They're all affected by it. So these are potential issues that makes it not the top in reliability. It drops it a little bit. So the 13 to 15 is definitely an honorable mention, but 16, 18, hybrid or not, it is a very good SUV. And the next one is 2015 and 2016 Toyota Highlander. Folks, these are so good that you're really going to have a hard time finding one in good shape, because they're that desirable. You're only going to find the horrible ones for sale, the ones that are neglected and really abused. However, they are truly good. Yes, they could develop some issues here and there, but overall, for the size of SUV that it is, they are really good. And the other thing about them is 2017 to 2019, in that generation. The 17 is when they changed the engine and the transmission. That's probably the least desirable year, because the 8-speed transmission had some issues in 17. The engine, the updated 2GR, had valve guide issues, oil leaks, coolant leaks. They've had some issues when they switched the engine. 18, late 18 into 19, they got better. But if you want to play it safe, 15, 16. But in that generation, 14 is also a year of that same generation. That was the first year. That was the year they had a few issues. One note on this generation: avoid the panoramic sunroof, especially in 14. They had really some issues, and they are extremely expensive to repair. Plus, you're buying a car for the family. That panoramic sunroof, as nice as it is, avoid it, because you might have issues with it and things will get expensive. And then on the Lexus side, equally to the Highlander, your 2012, 2015 Lexus RX 350. They are truly nice cars, and they're very good on reliability. And equally to the Highlander, in 2016, they changed the transmission, they changed the engine to the 2GR FKS, the direct inject and port injected engine, and the 8-speed transmission. They did have some issues in 16. 17, things got a little better. If you want to play it safe, 18, 19 are also really good. And then going forward into the next generation after that. The main issues that were there with 16 and 17, transmission shifting issues, valve guide issues, oil leaks, coolant leaks here and there until they figured it out. And then one note on the Lexus RX. 2010 and 2011 were really good. However, it did have some issues. Steering column, rear control arms, rear trailing arms. There were a few issues that they resolved as time passed by. Play it safe if you're buying today. Get a 12 to 15. You won't have issues and you won't be disappointed. And then another one on the Lexus side is the Lexus NX 2015 to 2021. Folks, when the Lexus NX 200T in specific came out, many people were concerned, wait a second, we have a turbocharged engine. What gives here? This is probably not reliable. Truth have to be said, they're super reliable. But there's one thing you gotta make sure of when you're buying an NX 200T. Maintenance is key. That turbo really likes its oil changes. And then there's an additional circuit for the turbo, also needs a coolant change. So there's a little bit more maintenance required for those, but they are truly good. Every single one that comes in the shop just needs maintenance. Rarely have seen any issues. Oil consumption issues have been reported. I have not seen them. They're not something rampant like some other models that we're gonna talk about, but that is one, if it comes on your radar, as long as it's maintained well, taken care of, it is actually a really good car. And let's talk about some honorable mentions here. 2009 to 2015 Toyota Venza V6, specifically the V6, completely avoid the four-cylinder. First, it's underpowered. Second, they have severe oil consumption issues. That generation Venza is really good. They're very bland. The steering wheel feels strange. The 20-inch wheels are really expensive to change the tires on, but overall, they're really good. The engine is very good, transmission is very good. They are known for some strut issues. You know, they wear out struts. Tires are expensive, and some leaks here and there, but nothing major where it would total the car and make it a horrible experience to own one. So those, if they come on your radar, they're in good shape. It's a V6. Those are actually very good cars. Let's talk about Toyota and Lexus trucks. And by trucks, I mean body-on-frame trucks. Probably the star of this segment is the 5th generation 4Runner. I mean, the 5th generation 4Runner is so good. Even when you go into 2010, which was the first year, they have so little problems. I mean, I see them coming in with extreme miles. They need nothing. They rarely fail inspection unless they've been severely neglected, modified. That's one thing that you need to know about. Don't buy modified ones. Or they are rusty. And this goes to all Toyota trucks. Please avoid the rusty ones, and we're going to talk about this in a little bit. Another very big highlight is the Lexus GX. In general, GX 470 and even the GX 460. GX 460 being a little bit better. They're newer. Better examples are easier to find. The GX 470, they're getting a little older. They are very good, but finding good examples is becoming harder and harder as people hold on to them because they're really good. Something about the GX 460 though, they are a little bit more expensive to buy, and they do have a few things. Air suspension issues as they get older and they rack up miles, some coolant leaks, some oil leaks, but even with this stuff, it's such a good truck. Just don't buy a rusty one, please, because rust on the GX really sends the bills high, and you do not want to be caught with one that is rusty. And of course, we cannot talk about good cars without talking about the Land Cruisers. As far as I'm concerned, you cannot go wrong buying a Land Cruiser or a Lexus LX. However, avoid the rusty ones. Avoid the ones that have never been maintained or serviced in any way, shape, or form. Be careful, because those will last until you buy one with 300,000 miles and it needs everything under the sun, because nothing was fixed on them, because they are that good. They will last extreme miles without you fixing anything, and then you buy one, it needs everything because nothing was done to it. Be careful with those. If you're going to buy a Land Cruiser, buy a good one. They're expensive, yes, but they're truly good. Let's talk about some honorable mentions in the truck segment. Tacomas, up to 2015. That generation, 2000, probably 2000, let's put it 2010 to 15 are the better years than all the way to 2005. Those are truly good, but if you buy one with a rusty frame, we have severe problems. And the other thing is, and the only reason they're honorable mentions, not top pick here, they do tend to, as they age and as they get miles, some of them develop head gasket issues. They do have some random oil leaks, vibrations, whatnot, as they get older. That's the only reason they're not a top pick. And then the Tundra, 2007 to 2021. They're really good. However, if you want to play it safe with those, get a 2010 and up. The early ones did have some issues with oil leaks, secondary air injection. The things can get expensive. And of course, double down on the no rusty ones. The rusty ones, I mean, these rust so bad and things get so bad, especially if you buy old one with a lot of miles that have been neglected on top of the rust. I mean, they become just, why did I buy this? I might have as well just bought a bicycle. Some of them get that bad. That's why they're honorable mentions. And of course, we cannot talk about trucks without talking about the FJ Cruiser. Look, FJ Cruisers generally are really good. 2007 to 2014, that was the run for the FJ Cruiser. 2010 to 2014, however, are the honorable mention. They have the 4Runner engine, the 5th generation 4Runner engine, basically bulletproof. They really have very little issues. However, rust again is a big thing for these. They love to rust, especially the early ones. Plus, 2002 2014 not only has a better engine, it takes regular gas, not premium for some reason, like the 2007 to 2009. So if you're going to go for FJ Cruiser, good maintenance, no rust, 2010 2014, you really can't go wrong with these. Let's talk about the worst Toyota models to buy in 2023. And let me reiterate the disclaimer that we talked about. If you own one of these cars and they have been really good for you, from the bottom of my heart, I am truly happy. I'm simply sharing my experience with these cars as I see them just continuously decline with large repairs that just seem never ending. And the first winner of those worst things is rusty trucks. All of them, even the Line Cruisers. You get a rusty one, it just, one thing leads to another, one thing leads to another, and it's just a never-ending road to a rotten frame, and then we're done. I recently made a video about a Sequoia. I am going to reiterate that. Please, when you buy a truck, really inspect it. If you're buying it from the Rust Belt or around the area, be very careful. All it takes is you leaning underneath the truck and looking at it. They're usually high. You can easily lean underneath them. Do not buy a rusty one. You will be so sorry. All the reliability will go out of the window because of rust. They really fall apart, and this is something, the truth have to be said, Toyotas and rust, they don't get along very well. And then starting with the first one, which will make a lot of people upset, do apologize in advance, but the truth have to be said. The Lexus LS 460, specifically 2007 to 2009, because these are probably the #1 Lexus in my shop. For some reason, reasons beyond my understanding and comprehension, those models are always neglected. I mean, I rarely see one that is in good shape. That's the truth. And usually, people that have those that are in good shape, they are taken care of, they keep them. They rarely sell them because they're such nice cars when they run right and they're taken care of. But the ones that are usually for sale are the cheap ones. So what I'm going to reiterate here is avoid the cheap LS 460s, because whatever you pay for it, you're going to double it in repairs in the first year. That is almost a guarantee. Small example for that. If everything is perfectly fine, but the front suspension decides to fall apart, control arms, knuckle, ball joints, whatnot, you're likely to spend upwards of $10,000 just to replace the front suspension and some struts. And then if the engine suddenly decides to start burning oil, which they love to do that in the early years, we're talking about, if you want to do short block and redo the whole engine and rebuild it, we're talking upwards of $30,000. Ask me how I know that. I actually written estimates like that just to make people realize, get rid of this car, please, when they get this bad. Folks, do not jump on a cheap LS 460. There's no such thing. These are flagship cars. They're mega complicated, beautiful cars, and in their segment, they are reliable. But if you're going from your Camry to an LS 460, don't buy the cheap one. Trust me, I see the faces of people, and it breaks my heart when they do that at the shop, and we have to give them these massive bills to repair. It's not good. Please avoid the cheap ones. And if you're going to buy an LS 460, splurge and buy one that is in good shape. And my recommendation is 2010 and up, all-wheel drive. Make sure it's been taken care of. Make sure it's been maintained. Don't buy a neglected one. And worse, the cheap one, because there's no such thing as a cheap LS 460. And then the next one is the 3rd generation Prius. The entire generation, honestly. The truth have to be said. First, absolutely avoid buying a used 2010, 2011 Prius. Some of you, and I actually personally know some customers that come to our shop with those 2 years that have zero issues and they run perfectly fine. Why? Because they took care of them. For some reason, beyond my comprehension, these 2 years, people just didn't take care of them. The majority of people really neglected these cars, and now you go buy one and they're cheap. I'm like, it's a Prius, it's a Toyota, they're great cars. They're not. I mean, we start with EGR problems, very expensive EGR problems. And then the head gasket goes, and then the engine starts burning oil, and then all kinds of problems leading up to the grand finale. The battery goes out because it has no filter and the fan is completely clogged. Avoid these. And things got better right around 14, 15 with the oil consumption and the head gasket issues. But at that point, why don't you just spend a little bit more and get such a better version of the Prius, which is the 2016 and up. So that's why I say avoid third generation Prius in 2023. If you have one that is running great, please take care of it. Because if you take care of these, they're actually decent cars. Cheap feeling, yes, they're boring cars, some people will call them, but they are really good cars if you take care of them. But that is becoming very rare these days. And then the next one, which is one singular model with 2 specific years. Toyota Tacoma 2016 to 2017. Folks, this will make some people upset, but here's the truth. From the bottom of my heart, I am not trying to make you upset. I'm just trying to share with you the truth. These 2 years were probably the worst years in the Tacoma period, the entire Tacoma lineup. They had so many issues in 2016. If your engine is not leaking oil, your torque converter is shuddering. If the torque converter is not shuddering, the drive shaft is vibrating, or there's some kind of noise or rattle or something going on. And if all that is fine, your valve guides all of a sudden just decide to start leaking, and you have all kinds of random misfires and all kinds of issues. I mean, 2016 Tacoma, if you own one, it's been fine. You already have 150,000 miles on it. I'm really happy. But unfortunately, so many of you have not had this success with the 16 Tacoma. As we film this video, I am looking right next to me, 16 Tacoma with a leaking front timing cover, and then leaking coolant from the rear coolant pipe. It just, the list goes on and on with the 16 Tacoma. 17 got a little better, but it was still had many of the issues. 18 and up, things got much better, leading into the 2020 and up until the latest one before the 24 comes out. They've gotten much better. But 16 and 17, if you're out in the market buying one today, avoid them. Go for 18 and up, or better yet, go for 15, non-rusty. Those are really good. And then the next one is 2006 to 2012 Toyota RAV4. For reasons beyond my comprehension and understanding, also this generation RAV4, often not taken care of, neglected, flat out. I see so many of them that are completely fallen apart that makes me wonder what happened. So here's a breakdown of that model and what to know about them. 2006 to 2008, 4-cylinder, loves to burn oil. They did come up with an updated piston design, very expensive repair. If this repair has been done, this is not a bad car. Then the V6, all kinds of oil and coolant leak, head gasket coolant leak, front timing cover leak, and then the biggest one, the biggest problem, VVTi gear rattles, very expensive, very common in this year range. Then we went to the 2009 to 2012, which they changed the 4-cylinder. Great. Well, not really. They have an issue with rattle and cold start. Expensive, but doable. If that's the only thing, we're good. But they also love to burn oil. That was the first revision of the 2AR. They really love to burn oil, and we've done so many of them here, rebuilds. Something becoming a little bit alarming because the number of them clogging catalytic converters, and the list goes on and on with their suspension falling apart, all kinds of stuff. That's not a very good model. The V6, however, from 2009, 2012, did get a little bit better, especially with the VVTi rattle and cold starts, but still, there is a tendency of neglecting these, and the best part is people who do not neglect these and they have good success with them, they usually don't sell them. They just pass them to their kids. They keep them. So you rarely find these in good shape out there. Be very careful with this year range of this RAV4. Then the next one is a single year of the Corolla. So 2009 Corolla, and very specific. The 10 is much better. 11, 12, 13, very good. The 2009, that was not a good year for the Corolla. They had so many issues. VVTi rattle and cold start, interior falling apart, all kinds of oil leaks, coolant leaks, water pump going out, CV boots leaking, just one thing after another, one thing after another. That's perhaps not the best year. If you have one that is running great, keep taking care of it, because so many of them just completely fall apart and they total themselves out. You go to 2010, it's much better. It's like, wait a second, it's exactly the same car. That was because that was year one. They really had a lot of issues in 2009 with that one. And then the last worst Toyota of Dubai is actually a Pontiac Vibe. Some people will laugh right now. If you're not familiar with the Pontiac Vibe, it is actually a Toyota Matrix. The Toyota Matrix is a great car, but the Pontiac Vibe, even though it's exactly the same, just let's back up this video a little bit. I just told you 2009 Toyota Corolla and Matrix, by the way, the Corolla and Matrix are exactly the same. They're not a good year to buy. The Pontiac Vibe was only 2 years, 2009 and 2010 in the last generation. Basically, you have a non-Toyota in the worst Toyota year, and then the 2010 had a 2.4 liter engine which burns oil. So here is the magnitude of the problem with the Pontiac Vibe. It's a Pontiac. It is not a Toyota. Yes, they do have the same parts, but when you go to a Toyota dealership, they'll be like, we can't sell you parts. This is a Pontiac. I understand, but they can't sell you parts. So you're going to have to basically tell them, I have a 2009 Matrix, and then they'll sell you parts, but you have no warranty on these parts, because when they tell you, what car did you install it in? A Pontiac Vibe. Well, that's not a Toyota. There is something very tricky with the Pontiac Vibe, and Pontiac, of course, is long gone. We actually discontinued working on Pontiac Vibes in the shop because of warranty issues. I would like to give my people that come through the door proper warranty on the parts, and I can't do that because there's no Pontiac to buy parts from. And then Toyota, if you buy parts from them, they don't want warranty for a Pontiac. So basically, I have to charge people full price with no warranty. That is not ethical, and it's best to discontinue working for them. And please do not look for cheaper alternatives to Toyotas and find the Vibe. Wait a second, it's a Toyota, let's buy it. They're actually not good. They fall apart so quickly, and I actually have my doubts that they're even the same quality as the regular Toyotas, because they fall apart in a way that is just unbelievable. And the problem is, 2009 was a strange year for the Corolla and the Matrix, and equally the Vibe. There are some parts that are discontinued, like a throttle body gasket. There's a specific throttle body gasket that we've been looking for one customer that we worked on their car, and now we have to find, we're having a really hard time finding it, and that was the point where we discontinued working on Vibes at the shop. But avoid them. You will find them a lot cheaper, and you will think, wait a second, but this is a Matrix. Avoid them, because warranty issues, and they tend to fall apart very rapidly for some reason. Let's talk about some oldies but goodies. These are cars that are much older, but if you are on a budget, you need a second spare car, or you're buying a car for your kid, these are cars you want to consider. But I will advise you one thing: be very careful with these, because if you don't do your due diligence, they could be bad cars, because again, they are much older. First one in that list is 2000 to 2004 Toyota Avalon. Folks, these are really good. If they've been taken care of, they're a little bit higher on the maintenance side, because they do have a timing belt that needs replacement and some odds and ends, and they are older. Rust is really bad for these, especially the brake lines. That's one thing you want to watch for. But if you find one that is somewhat rust-free, been well taken care of, it doesn't have extreme miles, these are actually really good to buy. And the next one is 2004 to 2006 Toyota Camry V6, specifically the V6. Those are really good. Again, you gotta be careful with the rust, careful with leaks. They love to leak a lot, but if they've been taken care of and people have fixed leaks as they go, and you find a good example, these can be a really good car. And equally to that one is 2004 to 2006 ES330. Those are basically a Camry. They're exactly the same, just quieter, a little bit nicer inside. Those are really good, but again, same thing applies. Be careful, as these are a little bit older cars. And then the next one is 2005 2008 Toyota Corolla. They do have their issues, some oil leaks, whatnot, but if you find one in a good shape, those are actually good, cheaper, older cars to buy. prices for those are soaring because everybody knows they're really good cars. That specific year range though, 2005, 2008, they did have 2003, 2004. Those did have some issues, but if you go with a 5 to 8 that is in good shape, rust-free, these are really good. And the last one on our oldies but goodies is the Lexus LS 430. Specifically 2004 to 2006. They had a better transmission. I actually own a 2001 Lexus LS 430 with 600,000 miles, but that doesn't count. The transmission on the 2004-2006 is a lot better, and overall the car has been improved, and in my opinion actually it looks better. Those are good cars to buy. However, there's a big notice here and disclaimer. They are expensive cars to maintain. They do eventually fall apart, and when they do, things get very expensive. So if you're gonna buy one of these, be ready to splurge on the car. They are truly well made and they last so long if you take care of them. But when things go, of course it's a machine, nothing lasts forever. When things go, things will be a little bit more expensive. So perhaps that would be a side toy car. They're ride very nice and they're super comfortable. But just know that maintenance and repair cost on these, if you want to keep them good, by good I mean original parts, they can be a little bit on the expensive side. And the most important thing, regardless of which car you're buying or how good it is and how reliable you're expecting it to be, you must get a pre-purchase inspection. There are things that sellers can hide about a car, but a proper inspection, or at least if you cannot get a pre-purchase inspection, put it on a lift, look around, research, watch videos, understand this car and its common problems so you can properly check it and not buy yourself one that has every single common problem. And then the other thing is, was this car taken care of? It is really sometimes difficult. Look, I understand when you go buy a car, the service records are not always available, but you want to do your due diligence. Try to investigate the car. Look at the Carfax, see if there are service records. Call the servicing dealer. Sometimes they will be nice and they will kind of tell you at least, hey, this car looks like it's been maintained, or oh, this car was once here for an oil change that we've never seen it again, and there's absolutely no records to really track the maintenance of this car. Some of the owners I get in the shop, God bless them, because they keep meticulous records of their cars, and this is the kind of car you want to buy. You at least understand how it was taken care of, what was done, where is it at with its maintenance, so you can continue taking care of it, and you will have a good car. Folks, I hope this video was helpful and informative. I hope you learned something new. If you like it, consider giving it a thumbs up. If you're not a subscriber, consider subscribing to the channel. Check out some of my other videos. And until the next video, folks, may the Lord bless you and keep you, and you have yourself a wonderful day.